We offer the best grooming products for you. Yes, all natural and handcrafted too. We wanna help be your swagger, your style, class, and luxury. We make our products tailor-made for you with high quality. Yeah, so get in style with the black, yeah. Grooming company, to give you swagger, style, class, and luxury. In luxury, yeah. The black gentleman, yeah. Company, give you swagger, style, class, and luxury. In luxury, yeah.
Located at www.theblackgent.com.
Yo. What's good? It's Stormybman, and I am back. Welcoming you to Nerds on Culture with Stormybman for this Monday, May 20th, 2024. This is number 86 in the series of Nerds on Culture. And tonight we are featuring a specific actor born of one of our previous shows and his own featured film series. We're going to talk about the film series that were headed up by none other than Charles Bronson, the Death Wish series. We're going to talk about this man and those films and how they sort of reshaped the image of the vigilante, anti-hero in modern film. So with that being said, we're going to come on out here and talk about this evening. Allow me to introduce my brother, partner in crime. We got Drew Titan in the building. What's going on, man? What's happening?
What's going on, good brother?
Oh,
Yes, sir. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, man. Charles Bronson was something. You know, the more you look into what he was about, the more you realize that they don't make him like that no more, man. He was a man's man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, some stars from his era were men who had the you know, Hollywood golden boy looks and stuff like that. But Charles Bronson looked like a man that could live across the street or down the street from you. But you know, also had that reputation that that same guy down the street, you might have seen him mowing his own lawn or cutting down tree branches on his roof or something, or working under the hood of his car, you know, and nobody ever messed with him, huh? They'll say, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, how you doing?" and keep it moving because Mr. Johnson had a rep.
Wasn't that usually the Vietnam vet on the block?
Yeah, something like that.
Vietnam vet. You don't mess with Mr. Johnson.
You couldn't help but show him respect and everything. And we've kind of gotten away from that in our society, man. Not the fact that you can be a veteran from war, but the fact that people look toward certain men as the prototype of what defines a man, what defines male machismo, what defines that that essence of macho, you know, that kind of thing. Now guys want to paint their fingernails, huh? And wear lime green purses and capri pants and stuff like that, confusing us all even more. So it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. Give me Charles Bronson, I say.
Bronson, also the males you described look like the kind of weirdo thugs that Bronson would be lighting up in his movies. Then they'll have weird fingernails and mohawks and stuff. Bang! And that was the end of that.
Do you remember in the first Death Wish film when the guys tried to assault him on the train?
Yeah. He was Bernard Getz before his time, bro. Man, if y'all don't know Bernie Getz, that's a whole thing. I might cover that piece on Pep Talk. When is enough? Bernard Getz. Before Bernard Getz, there was Charles Bronson, and he wasn't having it. The original, I'm not having it.
And what was also great was his reactions, his like deadpan looks at these guys while they were wilding out, you know, and he'd just be looking at them like, and they be saying stuff to him like, "Come on, old man, you know what?" And he just move his newspaper to the side and be like,
"Yeah." Blow them right away. Pause. They'd be, "Yeah, come on, old man." He just be staring at them and get a little closer. Move that newspaper, bang! And that's how the movie starts.
Yeah, man. That's how the movie starts. Some of those fools, that's how it is.
That's how it ended. Yep. Now the Death Wish series. You gotta understand, I don't think when that movie came out, I really don't think I was supposed to be looking at that damn thing. What year the first Death Wish came out?
The first one, allow me to pull it up here. The first Death Wish film was, I believe, 1974.
I was not
1974.
Okay, I wasn't born when it came out. I didn't come along until 75. By the time I saw it, I'm still sure I wasn't supposed to be watching that damn thing. By the time I saw Death Wish 1, it was probably 82, 81, 82. I was about 6 or 7. I was not supposed to be watching that. And when I saw it, it was the most brutal thing I've ever seen. I was like, oh, what? Oh, my Lord. That was bad. That was bad.
He didn't take any prisoners, man.
Nah. But he was on a mission. I will say this. When you got to know the villains in those films, you wanted Bronson to do his thing. You wanted them to die the most miserable situation.
Agreed. Agreed.
My gosh, man, there's some brutal scenes in that first Death Wish. I mean, brutal scenes when those gangsters, when those thugs broke into that house. I was like, oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah.
Vigilante City style, judge, jury, and executioner. My gosh.
This is the original theatrical poster for the first film. And the first film kicked some things off. You know, this was just a year after Dirty Harry, you know. Dirty Harry came out in 73. And the thing about the Death Wish films, they started out from a novel under the same title, and that novel, you know, they took elements of the novel and made it into a screenplay and a film. The first 3 films were directed by Michael Winner, and the first 3, they didn't go away from the elements of who his character really was. The character that Charles Bronson played in these films, his name was Paul Kersey, and he was an architect. And what sets him off is the fact that his daughter and his wife, you know, they were assaulted and everything, and in the worst kind of way for a 1974 film. And that kind of set him on that path, especially when the police weren't as astute at trying to find out and get at the culprits, you know. And this gentleman, Paul Kersey, he decided to take the law into his own hands. He went out and he purchased himself a firearm, and he went to the low end of the community because, like I said, he being an architect knows that he lived in a well-to-do community and everything like that. But he went to the low end to try to scope out the low life element. Not saying that everybody on the low end was that, but he knew what he was looking for, and he knew what he was going to have to deal with. So he wanted to figure out and, you know, find out how they moved and they behaved and how they would retreat after committing crime and stuff like that. So he made that a part. It was almost like he was studying them, stalking them, like in the wild, how a pursuing animal stalks his prey or something. It wasn't so much about just getting them and going in and he wanted to see exactly who they were and what they were about, and also that manly element of look into my eyes before I take you out, because I want you to know who did it to you. You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. He was, because you gotta understand, the 70s was a I had family in Chicago, but I had never been there then. Well, I was there when I was a baby, but I ain't been there as an adult. The cities were very different. And I know New York was, Manhattan was like a cesspool. I often talk about the old grindhouses down in 42nd Street and things of that nature. It was like there was some neighborhoods you just didn't walk down on streets, man. There was junkies everywhere, and uptown people stayed uptown. All right, whatever and if you had to go through the city, you went through in packs because it can happen to you out there. If you want to get a look at the old New York City, although a little exaggerated, watch movies like The Warriors. Something we need to talk about. The Warriors. Absolutely.
Matter of fact, I'll write it down while we're doing
absolutely cult classic. By the way, that meeting took part. It's supposed to have taken part up in the Bronx where I live, but there's no park up there like that. But New York was a zoo, and it was representative about how crazy things could get in these cities. And they put a spotlight on these junkies and thugs. And Hollywood, what they did was they magnified how brutal they can be. They really magnified how brutal they could be. So a lot of people that went to see this film, they can identify with that type of trash. I even read somewhere that some of the things that went on in this film, Death Wish 1, it really disturbed some people. I'll just say that, because the cities was really brutal. They were on some situations, they were on that type of time. And characters like Dirty Harry, characters like Charles Bronson's character in this film, especially Charles Bronson, not necessarily Dirty Harry, because Dirty Harry was a cop. Charles Bronson was a vigilante, and these are things that if you lived in a city, if you was the type of person like, okay, I go to work every day, I don't live in the best neighborhood, but I got to travel through these bad neighborhoods, and on a train back in New York, all the trains had graffiti on it, and it looked bad. It really did, and it didn't keep the best company on the trains. And a lot of guys would get harassed. You heard me mention Bernard Getz. That happened later in life, though. But Charles Bronson's character was a hero to the average person, because this is what they want to do. You know what I mean? So this was identifiable. So this is why this character in this series was so important, very important. So absolutely.
Yeah, so that first film, man, and it was like a slow burn. It was like suspenseful. They didn't rush to the violence, but the violence was definitely there. It made you feel something. I remember when he followed those guys down into, I forget what the setting was, but they were in some kind of abandoned building or house, and he followed them down into the basement. And there was all these big rats and stuff down there when he went down there. And when he got into it with some of the guys down there, he took a couple of them out. But, it's like once he had the taste of like revenge, there was no turning back. He just was on it. And, he rented out a hotel room on that low end. And he would walk the streets at night. And sometimes he was hoping that somebody jump out and try to rob him or something. He's what they call, that old term we used to use, casing the joint. Yeah. And you know what it reminds me of, really, if you think about it, that's who Bruce Wayne was, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly who Bruce Wayne was. Before he became Batman, it was like Bruce Wayne was of that same mindset, man.
He was learning the criminal activities. You gotta immerse yourself into that environment to understand how they move. And that's just what he did. He thought like them, and he knew how to get them. And it's different when you're rooting for the cop, like Dirty Harry. But when you're rooting for the vigilante, this character that Charles Bronson played, I mean, he really reached out and he triggered the fantasy of some people. And I understand. I was talking to some elders back in the day. They said, you know what the fear was from police? This movie would trigger, people to do certain things that they're really not supposed to be doing. I'll just say that. Your average Joe. That's what the fear was. It's like, man, this dude just took out this gang that we've been looking at for a whole month, and we're building the case, and Marty up the street just blew their brains out and didn't think we'd find them. So he did us a favor, but now we got to lock Marty up. You know what I'm saying? And Marty's some little white nerd guy like Bernard Getz. I got to talk about Bernard Getz. I got to talk about that. If y'all don't know the story about Bernard Getz, he was up here in New York. I'll talk about it. It's crazy, man. Bernie Getz.
Yeah, you can tell him a little bit about him because he kind of goes right in line with this character that Charles Bronson was playing in this movie, man.
Bernard Getz, I forget what year it happened. It was in the 80s. Bernard Getz was a little white guy in New York. Take the train, and he was a nerdy looking white guy. And he made the news because he shot some black kids. And of course, everyone tried to cry, oh, it's a racist shooting. And okay, he wasn't supposed to have that gun. From what I remember. He wasn't supposed to, of course, he wasn't supposed to have that gun. And of course, he shot those kids. And of course, they were black. But you know how many times Bernard Getz got robbed on that damn train, man? And he was just sick of it. This was not a racial shooting. And I heard, if I remember correctly, I got to look at the story again, but I heard that one of those cats, he like walked up on him when he was totally incapacitated and shot him again. It was a execution style shooting. But when the dust settled and you looked at this thing, you're like, you know what? He was robbed how many times on that train going to work, coming home from work? He looked like a mark. He had on a cheap suit, a briefcase, glasses, and he would just sit in the train like this. And you also found out that I'm rusty on the story, but I think a couple of those kids had priors from robbing people. So it's not about race. They just walked up on the right one that night, and he blew them away. And everyone was saying, oh shit, Charles Bronson, oh shit, Death Wish. Yeah. One of those kids that survived, he's in a wheelchair now. Ironside, minus the law degree. You know what I mean? So this, but when this came out, a lot of law enforcement was like, please God, don't let a bunch of these citizens run around thinking they could do shit like this, because it's gonna make our lives hard. And my thing is, let them clean up the streets for you. Since you got to go the legal route don't go fast.
Actually, I don't think, it'll make society bad or worse or whatever. I think things will balance out.
Yeah,
it's hard to say it that way, but you think about back in the Old West. Remember, we were just talking about a couple of the best Western films in the past couple of shows, and listen. When everybody is strapped, people show respect.
Everybody act right.
Yeah, it's like
everybody act right. You're holding. Everybody act right. Of course, not to take the show in this direction. There's always going to be that handful of people that hey man, you got the time? What are you doing? Bang. It's going to be that type of thing. We're too far gone from that. But I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's a cluster schmuck of things, man. It's just bad. But I do remember those. I remember the Bernard Getz thing. The city was on fire for that. And they tried to make it a race thing, and it clearly wasn't. When the dust settled and you looked at the facts, you're like, nah, this dude looked like a mark. And he looked like a target. He looked like a victim. I mean, even if he wasn't thinking about robbing somebody, you're looking at him like, yeah, I'm gonna go snatch his briefcase or something. He looked like a target, and those cats walked up on him, and he blew them away. Boom, boom, boom. They tried to say it was racist. No. Bernie got robbed several times. That was a big story out here. A big story. Some people say he was a hero. Some people was like, nah, he's not supposed to do that. But one thing's for sure, those 3 cats, they ain't robbed nobody else after that. Nobody else. It was an attempt. And Charles Bronson Played judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah, the synopsis for the first film goes as such. It says that Paul Kersey is an architect who served in the Korean War
Okay.
in the medical corps, and he lives in New York.
Yeah.
One day, 3 street punks posing as grocery delivery boys break into his apartment while he's at work. They beat up his wife, Joanna, and assault his married daughter, Carol, spray painting both of them and the wall of their apartment just for fun. Joanna, the wife, later dies of her injuries, and Carol, the daughter, is left catatonic.
Yeah.
Paul's life is ripped apart by this attack. Paul's boss decides that Paul needs to get out of New York for a while, so he sends him to Tucson, Arizona to meet a client. There, he witnesses a mock gunfight at Old Tucson Studios, a reconstructed Western frontier town that is often used as a movie set. As his client gets him interested in guns, it turns out that Paul grew up around guns and is a good shot himself. When he returns to New York, he discovers that his client has given him a .32 Colt police positive revolver as a gift. When the police are unable to find the assaulters, Paul sets out to find them himself. He begins patrolling the streets, killing street criminals as he encounters them. Yeah, that's the synopsis of the first film. And to just be certain how it plays out, I've actually adjusted the reading for this because there's certain terms and stuff that we don't want to use blatantly,
right,
for censorship and all of that. But just know that these films brought in, because there were 6 in all, a total of $87.2 million over the years that they were made. The first film in 1974. The last film was in 1994, and then there was like a remake in 2018.
Right.
The remake had Bruce Willis playing in Charles Bronson's lead role, but
it was a reboot. It was a reboot. Like they did it over.
It was a remake with Bruce Willis.
Okay.
That's the 2018 film, and it's titled Death Wish, just like the original film. But they were in an ensemble. The first 3 films, as I stated earlier, were directed by the same director, and the 4th film was called Death Wish 4: The Crackdown.
Yeah. And
then you had Death Wish 5, The Face of Death. So, that it was a lot of stuff going on. But to move on about the second film, the second film happened because of the success of the first film, and people really started to get off on that, because remember, we had the Zodiac Killer, in the early 70s. Of course, that was just before you were born, but in the late 70s, we had a similar character, the Son of Sam.
Son of Sam. Yeah.
And so the American public, man, they didn't like these weirdos out here committing these kind of crimes. And the police were not, I won't say that they weren't interested in bringing these guys to justice, but it's funny how when these things were happening and innocent people were losing their lives to these deranged criminals, that's when the police would double down and be more within your Miranda rights and all of that stuff. You know, it was like, man, go out there and crack some heads. You'll find out who's doing this stuff. You know what I mean? But they didn't. So these films became popular, man. They became very popular because people wanted justice and they wanted instant justice.
Yeah, they where they feel, you know, I understand that there's proper protocol, you got to do certain things or whatever, but the public doesn't understand that, and they want blood. They want blood, man. Meanwhile, while you're doing protocol, you know, I know about that Son of Sam thing. You know, my parents were talking about it as I got older, and I said, yo, there was some lunatic running around doing that. You know, we had the Zodiac killer. That was in the 80s, I believe, right? The Zodiac.
No, the Zodiac was the one from the early 70s because that's what Dirty Harry's story
Okay, so then
born out of that.
There was something that happened in
That
the
was
80s.
in San Francisco. It was happening actually in San
So
Francisco
there was
as well.
Zodiac first. Son of Sam was after that, right?
Right.
There was a third one that was out here. I can't think of the name of this dude. He was running around asking people what their sign was, and he was shooting them.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was like this.
That's the film that what's his name?
Was it John Leguizamo? Because he did the Son of Sam movie, I believe.
Yeah, he did the Son of Sam movie, but there was a film with Robert Downey Jr. and what's old boy's name that played in Brokeback Mountain with Heath Ledger. What's the other guy's name?
I can't think of that guy's name now. But yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, he and Robert Downey Jr., they played in a film where it was covering that other killer you're talking about. And they were working in the news. Like Robert Downey Jr.'s character was a newsman. Right. Working in the press. And he was afraid to write about the guy, you know, and stuff like that. It was pretty good. I can't think of the name of the film right now. If I pull up RDJ's filmography, let's see.
Right. But these characters, like Death Wish, it's sort of like people find comfort in things like this because they're created out of the fear of the real fear of the public of things that was actually going on. So they found comfort in movies like this because there's elements of the movie that touches us like in real life. And I'm looking at the poster. Bronson's loose again. Yeah, she's loose again. Oh man, scary time, man. Very scary time. That's funny.
By the way, if you haven't seen Oppenheimer from last year, Robert Downey Jr. is playing Louis Strauss in that. Dude, he is excellent in that. That guy is a hell of an actor, man. Really He's good. Probably the actor of my generation because we're the same age, he and I. And he's actually from my coming up when I was in high school and stuff, and seeing him play in certain roles, you know, it's funny because he's starting to look like an older man now. I think the years of the drug abuse and stuff has taken its toll on him because he was always kind of a youthful looking guy.
Young looking, yeah.
Until he got to a certain age, and then he kind of started looking, you know, because either that or I got an overly critical eye because I don't feel like I've fallen off like that. But
no, you know, he could have looked worse, man. This guy, if Second Chances was a person, it'd be him because he almost bombed out with the drug use and everything. He almost bombed out, man. That guy's been around since the early 80s acting. So, you know, I'm glad it worked out for him. You know, Bronson's loose again. Death Wish 2.
What is the name of that film he was in?
Yeah, man, those serial killers was something else. Son of Sam. The movie with John Leguizamo was called Summer of Sam, if I remember correctly. Salute Village Brother. Yeah, Zodiac. And
Zodiac is the film.
that's the film.
Okay. Yeah, that's the film. And what's his name is in there too, that plays the Hulk, Mark Ruffalo.
All right.
But trying to think let's see, cast of Zodiac. Because I don't know why I can't think of this guy's name. Jake Gyllenhaal. Damn. I couldn't think of his name, man. Don't that make you mad when you be trying to remember stuff? It's like you get mad, be like, what is the dude's name?
Oh,
I got several of his films, you know, but I couldn't think of the doggone guy's name.
and that reminds me of a damn joke. I was watching that movie with The Rock and Kevin Hart, and that Indian dude had a snake in his cooler. And he was like, yo, that's my friend. I call him Snake Gyllenhaal. Snake Gyllenhaal. That's funny. Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in there with them. And Zodiac. Yeah.
Zodiac.
But see, Bronson's films took the elements of these circumstances and kind of flipped them on its end, because you never know if you run into a real person out there like that. And as in Death Wish, when he started taking down the baddies, the police had no idea it was him.
Oh yeah.
Until one of the detectives kind of start putting it together that it might be him. And then they had this big shootout toward the end of the film, and that detective was like, he basically got taken out, but before he left, he told Charles' character, he was like, "Get him."
Yep.
You remember that?
I get him. Yep. You gotta get him. You gotta get him. What's her name did a movie like that a few years ago?
Huh?
What the hell is her name? White chick. And her boyfriend was what's that Indian guy's name? But they was walking through Central Park and they jumped on his ass and beat him to death.
Yeah.
And she had a podcast. And she turned into a female Charles Bronson, and she started taking those guys out. And at the very end, what's his name was in that movie that played Rhodey in the first Iron Man. What's his name?
Terrence Howard.
When he caught up with her, because he was a cop, and she walked up on the last guy, and that was like the climax of the film, because he's supposed to stop her, lock him up, and lock everybody up. And she pointed the gun at him, and he said, "Don't do that." And she looked. He said, "Give me that gun. Use my gun." And the whole audience in the movie was like, "Oh!" And she shot his ass. Yup, Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, snap." She turned into Charles Bronson in that film. I was like, damn. But those movies make citizens feel good. Make them feel safe. This was actually a feel-good movie. You know, and Charles Bronson, you know, oh, wait a minute. Well, what was that movie with what's his name? And what was it, Falling Down?
Oh, Michael Douglas,
man, that movie I was like, all right, that was it. That was the day. It set him off. And he just he tore that city up, man. He tore that city up. He tore it up.
He was how it starts off. He was in traffic.
Yup. And he just got out.
Traffic, and the people honking their horns and flipping each other off, and ain't nobody going nowhere. And he was looking at his watch. He was looking around. He was like, you could see that he was coming apart.
He was like, F this. He left his car there and just walked off. Was walking around with those glasses and that shirt and tie. And it just escalated. He was mad at construction. He was mad at hamburgers that didn't look like the picture. He was mad. He ran into that neo-Nazi. He was mad at everything, man. He was mad at everything. Funny as hell, man. But he loved
and he was a nerd looking guy, like Guess, right? It's like he you know, you would look at him and probably pay him no mind if you saw him in public, because that's how inconspicuous he looked. And that little schoolboy haircut he had with the glasses.
Hold on, bro. I gotta take this call. Give me 1 second.
Go ahead. Yeah, you know, Michael Douglas and Falling Down, we may have to do a show on that film as well, because it's right along the lines of what we're talking about with these vigilantes and everything, but more of the same of when citizens kind of take the law into their own hands. Yeah, that's right, Village Brother. He was like, I'm the bad guy. He was like fixing stuff, you know, as we would say, issues out there in the streets. And Michael Douglas's character was like, wait a minute, I'm the bad guy? Yeah, I remember that, man. I actually have it on DVD. I have that film. At the time that it came out, and when it made it to DVD where I could watch it at home, because I did see it in the theater. I remember just watching it several times and just thinking to myself, like, wow, this movie resonates on so many different ends, man. It does. And I just remember thinking, like, you know, the world was a different place at that time. So seeing somebody do that, you'd be like, man, he snapped. But somehow, some way, I could understand what was going on with him, but I don't know that he was a okay. Drew had to go, you guys. He had a family emergency, so it's gonna be me going solo from this point on for the rest of the show. He had a family emergency, so let's send the brother off peace and prayer for what he's dealing with. Just to talk about the Death Wish films, what I would like to do, finish talking about Death Wish 2, and then I may stop it there because of what has transpired with my co-host here, and we may end this show a little early due to some circumstances beyond our control, but I will finish talking about Death Wish 2. Death Wish 2's synopsis is that Kersey and his daughter Carol, who is still catatonic, now live in Los Angeles because the dad, Paul, accepted a deal from the New York City Police Department to leave town so they would not tell anyone that he was the vigilante taking out all the criminals. Now he has a new woman in his life, a news reporter. And one day while he is out with his daughter and his new girlfriend, he's mugged by a gang of 5 punks. He fights back, but they get away. The muggers go to his house, gag, assault, and murder his housekeeper. Then they wait for him to return and knock him unconscious and kidnap and assault his daughter. The assault brings her out of her coma, and she tries to get away by jumping through the 2nd-story window where they were, but she dies when she is impaled on an iron fence outside from her fall. Beside himself with grief and rage, he dedicates his life to avenging his daughter. He rents a ratty hotel room and under another name starts looking for the assaulters. When the police department deduces that they have a vigilante on their hand, they decide to consult with the New York City Police Department, who fear that he is killing criminals again. Death Wish 2 and Death Wish 1 were really some real strong films, you guys. Some real strong films. I can't even, there's nothing like it today because those films came first. If you see vigilante violence in films of today, just know that what they're based on is always trying to up the action, the violence, and the ways that they put people to their end and their fate. It's very unfortunate that we've resorted to visually showing you something so graphic just to drive home the point. There used to be a time when the camera would cut away just before something really bad happened, or the scene would fade out, and they'll leave it to your imagination to think in your mind and understand. In an audience, a theater audience full of people, your thought might not be like the person sitting next to you's thought, and so forth and so on, because when they don't show it to you and they just let you conjure in your own thoughts what may have transpired, it has a heavier, weightier impact on you, because what you conjure in your mind as fear and something of a violent nature, but you really didn't see it, but you're only thinking about it. Again, you can get a number of different reactions and responses from the audience, which is why it was best when the directors and the people who created action and violence for films, when they did it that way, it was more subtle and it was a little bit more entertaining as a result. So for the fam that's in the chat still here, I want to ask you guys, so what do you think about everything as far as these Death Wish films? Have you all seen them all, or have you only seen one of them or a couple of them? I'm trying to get a little audience participation here right now at the moment. Let's see here. Sorry about that. It said that for a moment there I went offline for some reason. I don't even know what was up with that. You see if I can pull the chat up here. Shogun says, I seen the one with Lawrence Fishburne. Lawrence Fishburne? I don't recall Lawrence Fishburne in the film. I don't Let me see. Let me look that up. Let me see. Lawrence. The 82 film? Yeah, he was in the Death Wish 2. They're saying. Why did I remember him in there? Yeah, Shogun, that was Death Wish 2. Lawrence Fishburne was in there. I don't know why I didn't remember that. The Village Brother says, I've seen one of them. I think the Punisher character is pretty much Charles Bronson. You may be right there, Village Brother. You very well may be right, man. That's crazy. That is crazy. Yeah. Left Brain says he saw Death Wish 2. Yeah, I've seen the first 3. Haven't seen the 4th one, though I have it in my DVD collection. Haven't gotten around to watching it yet. Got to be in a certain frame of mind to watch those kind of films, you know, because they get graphic. Like I said, as time went on, the films got a little more graphic. Shogun says, remember the one where he went to the projects and started setting up traps and stuff? Yeah, man. He was something else, man. Charles Bronson was really good as this character. Yeah. But it was entertaining. You have to forgive me a little bit, fam. I'm trying to keep my composure a little bit. We do have a serious situation that has transpired, and I'm just trying to figure out how I'm gonna wind things down here, because we have a interruption in the show that called for some immediate attention. Jimmy Bernard, what's good with you, bro? See you out there. In fact, gonna play this sponsored clip here, and we may just call it an evening, but we'll come back in a future date and finish this show up. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna shut everything down for this evening. Please give your thoughts and keep your brother Drew Titan in your thoughts and prayers for some circumstances that he has to address on the immediate. So with that, we're gonna get on out of here for this evening. Thank you everyone that tuned in, and shout out to the mighty LDBC. We will be back with another Nerds on Culture in the future, and hopefully we can come back and finish off this one, because we were not done. And just know that there's some things that are more important, but we will be back. So with that being said, catch you guys on the next one. Peace.